Number one question is when someone loses a significant amount of weight, Ryan, why can it feel emotionally disconnecting instead of just exciting?
When we have lived our life, 30, 40, 50, maybe 60 years, and, either physically having that identity pretty consistently, or definitely if it's happened during the formative years and then on forward, the brain becomes attached to that. Moreover, the central nervous system gets programmed to what it is like to be as living that life. And if that's somebody who is obese or somebody who is overweight, it's not only the image that you have when you see in the mirror, right? Or even the internal self image. I guess along with that internal self image is the central nervous system, right? And so then, you lose the weight, you're feeling good, you're getting compliments, whatever the case may be. That old version of you, if we haven't been doing behavioral and mental health work to help you to release that identity, to grieve the loss of that identity, it can be unsettling to people whereafter, and they're like, "Oh, I lost this weight, but I'm actually not feeling good. I'm not feeling fully like myself." And that's because that central nervous system, that identity, right, that needs to be released, but that doesn't just happen like that. And if we haven't been doing that mental and behavioral piece along with the physical weight loss, situations like that can arise.
Mhm. Okay. So why do some people feel uncomfortable in their new body, even if they've worked hard? You hear people say, I've done the work, I'm working hard, I'm going to the gym, I'm waking up, I'm eating well, I'm on the GLP-1 medication, but I feel so uncomfortable in my body. Where does that come from?
More self-love, more self-love. And just so the listeners and the viewers know, I have no idea what these conversations are ahead of time. This is truly a free flow conversation. So I both ask for your grace if there's a little bit of a pause, and at the same time, I hope this goes to show you just how much work it is I do with people around identity. There was no pre-screening for me of any of these questions. The answer to your question predominantly, I would say, is self-love. Have I been loving myself along the way? Have I been telling myself I'm proud of myself along the way, right? As the scale continues to move in the direction that I want it to move in. Maybe I have been, taking those behavioral changes, going to the gym, eating healthier, making better food choices, staying away from alcohol, shifting the individuals that I hang out with. If we haven't been celebrating ourselves along the way and telling ourselves how proud we are of ourselves, that can then lead us to feel like, gosh, I put in all of this work, but I'm still not proud of myself. I still don't feel good about myself.
Mm. Yeah. I want to ask you this. This is not on the list, but when you say more self-love, where does one even start?
Yeah, and I realized as I wrapped up there and I saw you pensively looking, I thought, okay, but let's take it deeper, right? We're
Yeah, let's
we're
do it.
we're, we're deep here, right? So in the body, it is so important to ground this new identity into the body. And when we do that through self-love, and I'll answer your question, but to take a half a step back, you know, uh, your central nervous system is not only your brain and your spinal cord, it's all of the nerves and everything like that that go off from it, that go to every crevice of your body. And that's a very non-scientific definition of what the nervous system is, but that's your body. And if you've been living in trauma, if you've been living in fear, if you've been living in a state of fight or flight, okay, and you've been using food as an unhealthy coping mechanism. Listen, for me, it was drugs and alcohol that was my unhealthy coping mechanism, right? When that unhealthy coping mechanism gets removed, whether that's through a holistic healing process, through a pharmacological process, through some combination of both. And I think people should choose whatever works, best for them. If they need the combination, do the combination, right? But Definitely the more natural approach and integrative approach needs to be a part of it. But I digress. If we aren't doing that work and allowing ourselves to drop back into our body, to love ourselves. Like I give myself a hug so frequently throughout the day when I'm recognizing like, oh, I'm feeling unsafe, or hey, I need a little bit of love, or hey, that memory came up for me and it's coming up for a reason and it's coming up to be healed. I will just straight up hug myself. There's been many a times where I've sat in my car and just hugged myself and cried. So, dropping into the body, recognizing these thoughts, feelings, and emotions are stored in the body. So, if we want to feel more comfortable in our body, we need to start loving our body. And I don't just mean by eating healthy or taking advantage of GLP-1 medications, if that's what you and your prescriber have agreed upon. I mean, hugging yourself. Sometimes like at night, I'll just sleep with my hands interlocked in together and just be like, I love you. I'm here for you. You're not alone. That's soothing for me, right? To have, feeling like my hands are being held or hugging myself. So these are different ways that you can do it. When you're at the gym and you're exercising, right? Looking at yourself in the mirror, not from an ego or a vanity standpoint, right? But to just be like, I love you. Look in the mirror. I love you. I'm proud of you. And to, if you can do that full length, that's important. If you can just do it, in your bathroom mirror where you're just looking at your face, that's important. But these are all different ways to get that self love ground in the body.
Thank you so much. That conversation right there was so important. And for our listeners, I would encourage you to go back and listen to that part again or as many times as you need to.
One other
Um,
thing I would add into that is I think that uh, I don't like this about our society, but for the women out there, so much of a woman's identity, and I don't agree with this. I'm just saying, let's call it what it is. We're going to go deep, we're going to go raw here. So much of the outside world's identity for a woman's self worth is based around how do you look, right? You don't see that so much with men. Or as much with men, but for women, you see that very much, right? And so it's like, for women, I think in particular that, oh gosh, my self-worth being all the way tied into my body, my how am I going to be accepted? Am I worthy of being accepted? I think for women, it's all the more important than to really allow yourself to drop down into your body and to pour that love into yourself. It's the case across the board, right? And we all need to do it here, but we also need to do it in here in our heart, in our body. And I think for women, they can really be impacted by that the most just because of the unfair projections or projections that I very much disagree with relative to the world telling them that their self-worth is based around their body or how they look.
Right. And thank you for adding that. That is so true. For a woman to have self love and self worth, you can feel worthless at 200 pounds and you can feel worthless at 120 pounds, right? When you extract the body weight, it's basically having that self love and self recognition and that you value yourself. So that there goes the saying that a lot of the weight that you carry is emotional weight, and
Yeah.
that's a lot sometimes emotional weight that we put on ourselves, right? Or we choose to put on ourselves. um so when let's continue the relationship part. Why do relationships sometimes shift when someone changes physically? What's going on?
Could be triggering the other person to feel insecure, right? Could be triggering your partner to feel insecure. Maybe you're looking better, you're feeling better, you got a different vibe, you got a different flow, right? That could make your partner who's not confident in him or herself get jealous. So that's the real raw truth of it. Maybe not a lot of
Yep.
people want to admit that or say it, right? But hey, listen, we're all human. We all have insecurities. Okay, I have insecurities. I think I had a lot more prior to doing some deeper work in my healing journey. But we all have that. So I'm not saying that as a pejorative way or from an ego way. But yeah, that's why, having a partner that loves you for you, and also, and perhaps more importantly, truly loving themselves is
Mm.
so important.
Yeah, I love that. So when it comes to identity, how does one build a new identity that isn't just the person who lost weight? This is so common. You could be in a new community, a new environment, you're at a party, at work, and you just become that person that lost weight. And that's what you're known for. But how do you create a new identity? Or where can one even start?
If you went up to people on the street and you said, "Tell me five, shoot, tell me three characteristics about you that make you special."
Mm,
How many people do you think would struggle with that?
a
A
lot,
lot.
a lot.
A lot of people would struggle. So to the listeners and the viewers out there, how do I create my identity outside of, the weight loss? Hey, my question to you would be very simple. What are 3 to 5 things about you that you feel make you very special? We all have them, right? We all have them. So answer that question, hone into that question, repeat that question. And the other thing that I have to say, preface, or add the caveat is I'm not talking about ego. We're not talking about ego here. We're not talking about, beating our chest or this or that, right? What's 3 to 5 things about you that makes you special? Separate from your external appearance, right? Right? What are 3 to 5 things about your personality, about who you are, about your heart, about how you're wired that make you special, that make you a gift to other people? That's your value.
Mm. Ah, makes me smile. That's so true. Um, okay, next one. Why do some people sabotage their progress once they start getting attention and validation? We see this a lot too.
Yeah. If we are seeking external validation to fill an internal pain, it's a recipe for disaster. Okay. And we're human beings, we're social creatures. Of course it feels good to say, hey, I see you making great progress, or hey, great job on that work report, Bill, or hey, you scored the game-winning goal. Like that's awesome, like so proud of you. Of course, we're human beings, we're social creatures. That external feedback, I believe, is necessary, right? And is an important part of what it means to be a part of community. But when that external feedback, that external validation is, excuse me, filling a deep internal pain, that's the recipe for where things can start to go awry, right? So we want to make sure that, yeah, the external validation of being told like, hey, okay, you lost weight, like that's great, right? But it's got to go deeper than that, and it's got to be more of an internal process just for you, and not just external. Does that
Mm.
answer the question?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It screams out to me that, you're not just a number on the scale. You're a real person, your real emotions, and
Yes.
an identity that you can recreate. So yeah, I love that. Thank you. Okay, next question. What role does confidence play in someone's transformation and why it doesn't automatically appear after weight loss? So is that true? Do people still feel like they don't have the confidence, because this is the whole identity shifter. It's like when the body is shifting so fast, you don't have enough time to readjust, to build a confidence. You're battling with your new identity, old identity. So what role does someone's confidence play in a transformation? Like, is that what makes it last, or what is it?
I think there's a number of things that make it last, but I'll draw an analogy, which probably seems way off, and then I'll tie it in together. I
Hmm.
don't know the exact number, but it's a very, very large percentage of people that win the lottery that then, after a period of time, not that long thereafter, right? Where they end up in the same exact financial position that they were in before, right? Because that change happened quickly, but the identity didn't have an opportunity to match up.
Mhm.
And so, hey, if you're on GLP-1 medication and you're making great progress and you're losing the weight, that is awesome. Good for you. Like I love it, right? Obviously, we hope that you're doing it with your doctor and you're being monitored and all of that, right? And that's awesome. There needs to be the identity piece that is also happening alongside of it, right? Where we're continuing to uh, shape and shift and ground into the new identity along the way. And if we're not doing that, right, then we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to build up the familiarity with that identity. We're not giving ourselves the opportunity to ground into that new version of ourself. And okay, Ryan, well, what does that have to do with confidence? Well, how much are you going to be able to win if you're standing on your tippy toes?
Mm.
If I'm going to push you, right, and you're grounded, right, strongly and flatly on your feet versus your tippy toes, what do I have the better opportunity to tip you over? Well, if you're standing on your tippy toes, right? So you're going to feel a lot more confident if I push you. I don't know why I'm using an aggressive analogy right now, but
That's okay.
it's just what's coming to mind, right? Hey, that's life, right? Life
That's
sometimes
nice.
is going to push us, right? So
Yep.
we want to be grounded, but if we're standing on our tippy toes because we haven't been doing the work, because it all feels new and different and whatever the case may be, which to some degree we can't avoid that, but when we stay more grounded, that's what I think gives us the confidence. And there's a process to that. That's why we speak so much about the integrative behavioral, mental, and emotional neurobiological journey of GLP-1 weight loss. Is that losing the pounds on the scale is just one piece of it. But the confidence goes beyond just seeing the scale improve. Okay. It's got to be an improvement in here. It's got to be a shift in here. And it's got to be a shift in your heart.
Mm. Well said. Well said. Thank you for explaining that really well. Okay, last question. If someone feels lost after hitting their goal weight, where do they start mentally and emotionally?
We want to help you so that you don't even get to that point.
Mm.
We
Explain
want to
that.
help you. Yeah, we want to help you so you don't even get to that point. There's a in my opinion a major lack of the mental and emotional components of GLP-1 weight loss. When we've got that integrative approach, when we're thinking about, identity and who I'm going to be, who I want to be, who I'm working towards being, then when we get to that endpoint, it's like, oh, okay, like I've been working towards this. I've been integrating this. This feels me. This feels authentic. Okay. And so that's very important to do right from the beginning. I want to have that plan in place right from the beginning. So when I get to the end, it's not like, oh gosh, well, now where do I go from here? Or, oh, so how do I feel comfortable in my skin, feel comfortable in my body mentally and emotionally now? That's the wrong time to be. Important question, wrong time. You want to be asking that question early on in your journey, at the very, very beginning of your journey, so that all while you're doing the journey, all while you're doing the work, you're then preparing yourself for, when you come off, or even if you want to stay on because you're going to microdose because of maybe some of the anti-inflammation effects that we're seeing from GLP-1 medications, which I think is pretty incredible. If that's going to be your new normal, then you even want to be grounded into that new normal. So that emotional and mental, the answer to your question is that emotional and mental health component or plan that needs to be a part of the conversation on day one, not the
Yeah,
last day.
yeah, yeah. Very powerful statement. Well, everybody, I think that turned out to be a masterclass on its own. Such a powerful episode, Ryan. Thank you so much. So many takeaways. I think this is an episode that needs to be heard over and over again as well. And if any of you guys that are listening need a little bit more support and a little bit more guidance, you can reach out to Ryan. I will leave his links in the show notes as well, and also our Facebook community, and the link to our book and booklets if you need a little bit more support. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you next time.